In Victoria's fruit-growing heartland along the Murray and Goulburn rivers, orchardists are busy tearing up their once valued trees. The reason? Shepparton Cannery SPC Ardmona has slashed production, telling more than 60 growers their fruit is no longer required. It's also substantially reduced orders from another 60. The move has raised questions over the viability of the industry and triggered calls for a return to tariffs. James Bennett reports.
Near Cobram, in Victoria's fruit-growing heartland, perfectly healthy peach trees are being wrenched from the earth.
When you've got a tree that's only 4-year-old and 5-year-old, it's still just barely coming to production, you've been nursing that tree for 5 years to get some income from it, and all of a sudden you've got to remove it. That's heartbreaking. That's very sad.
Tony Latina's father bought this property 50 years ago. He grows a variety of stone fruits and pears, but supplying SPC at Shepparton with peaches was, until now, the backbone of his business.
They said they had to remove of about 60–70% of the growers. Now, that was a shock to the system because no one thought that it was going to be that drastic.
Fellow orchardist Andrew Routley is one of them.
We've been discontinued as a pear grower, so we're no longer a pear supplier. They're maintaining us as a peach supplier, though at less than 50% of our potential. So all in all, we've been cut by 44% in gross fruit sales, which pretty much makes the business unviable as it currently stands.
It's a dramatic change in fortunes for SPC.
July last year, all growers were visited by the cannery and asked how much fruit they had because they were pretty much prepared to take everything. Everything was looking really good. We then had a growers meeting sometime in August where we were informed that sales had been declining.
Last September, SPC cut its peach intake from 32 to 25,000 tonnes. That immediately had two effects. One, farming properties were put on the market, and secondly, farmers tried to sell the excess peaches to fresh fruit markets, collapsing prices. The drastic cut last month to just 13,000 tonnes has forced this sort of action here and raised questions on where excess peaches will go and whether many farmers can continue.
In a statement last month, SPC Ardmona, wholly owned by Coca-Cola, announced its market share of the canned fruit business has declined to just 33%, while supermarket own label share has grown to 58%. SPC Ardmona also says the amount of fruit it exports has plummeted, falling 90% in the past 5 years. The company cited two factors: the high Australian dollar cruelling exports, while simultaneously cutting the cost of imports, which growers complain are already government subsidised.
The effect of all of these trends has seen fruit and vegetable processing really stagnate over the last 5 years. IBISWorld research indicates that it's grown at less than 1% per annum over the last 5 years, whilst imported canned and bottled fruit and vegetable products have actually grown at around 7 to 8% per annum over the same period.
Regardless of the reasons, the company wants federal help. Growers support its calls for reintroducing tariff protection against imports.
The way things are going, if they don't improve, if the government doesn't put heavy tariffs on, and if the dollar doesn't change very quickly, I think SPC Ardmona could be the last canning processor in Australia to go. That's my thoughts.
SPC says it's seeking protection to insulate it against the high dollar. But State Agriculture Minister Peter Walsh is sceptical, arguing that's not what tariffs are for.
Tariffs aren't there to protect against the high dollar. Tariffs are there if there is anti-competitive behaviour by the exporting country, where there is subsidies, where you can have countervailing duties, or where there is dumping, where you can have anti-dumping duties.
Asked if the federal government supported the tariff push, Agriculture Minister Joe Ludwig told 7:30 Victoria in a statement, "We've received the information from SPC. What we do really have to do is work through that letter, work through the industry portfolio, the trade portfolio to provide that response. So it's too early for me to be able to say what the response should be." At the weekend, the government did offer low-interest loans of up to $650,000. Primarily aimed at struggling West Australian grain growers, they were derided by orchardists for requiring recipients be viable to qualify.
How can you be a viable grower if you're leaving the industry because you can't you're in heavy debt? You're not viable. So how is he going to help the growers that want to leave?
Asked if the federal government was open to assistance over and above the loan scheme, Joe Ludwig did not respond. Peter Walsh says he's asked the industry for advice on whether paying growers to stop is a good idea.
Let's wait and see the work that actually comes back, what the numbers are, because there is obviously some people where canning is a percentage of their business and they have a substantial fresh fruit business sits beside that. And for some growers who are canning only, they have a major challenge in the future.
Tony Latina says the collapse in fresh peach prices when growers tried to cut their losses last spring makes it clear some must leave.
There's just too much fruit out there.
So does that mean people have to leave?
There is growers that are thinking seriously, they have to leave because they can't see their way out. They're heavy in debt and the only way is out.
However difficult the industry's survival, he says, depends on it.
For those of you that remain, you need that to happen. Otherwise, your markets will be ruined as well.
Exactly. That's why we've got to have a rationalisation of the whole system.
Analysts like Susanna Rowley, though, point to a more fundamental issue than oversupply.
The other problem for food producers, whether they're growers or manufacturers, is just the overwhelming dominance of Australia's two main supermarkets and the bargaining power that they have along the supply chain. This is likely to entrench and grow the market share of private label products, which feed into the whole problem.
But in stark contrast to orchardists' woes, that same dynamic has been deftly exploited by one dairy company. Murray Goulburn's recent long-term deal to supply Coles with the milk for its home brand products has got the State Minister thinking.
I know Murray Goulburn is very keen for additional milk supply. The dairy industry is interspersed with the orchard industry in the Goulburn Valley. There may be opportunities for people that want to actually go into the dairy industry to actually adjust and go across.
Orchardists like Andrew Routley, though, remain unconvinced they can make the switch.
Our land is entirely unsuitable for anything else. It's not suitable for flood irrigation, it's not suitable for pivots. It's high-value horticultural land, so we're stuck in horticulture. So it's either tree fruits or vegetables. We know tree fruits, so we're going to continue with that.